I was born in the Bible Belt. Religion was stitched into my skin the moment I was born. The Bible was my first book and my first homework assignment. I learned the term Bible days as a period of time, separating who God was and who He's supposed to be. And when I was a kid, I had imaginary friends. I named them David and Jonathan, and when we played pretend, I was always Esther. And maybe it's because I didn't completely understand the sacrifice and her calling, but at least I knew the end of that story. I was born in the Bible Belt, where I came to realize I was some version of different because I wasn't Baptist. And I only realized this after the 100th time that someone said, "So, what is it exactly that you believe?" Eventually I learned to say, "Well, if you can tell me your doctrine, I'll quote you mine," and that usually ends a conversation pretty quickly. I was born in the Bible Belt. And I think I was about to be in middle school when I realized I had been handed an angel and a demon to keep with me always. And as this belt closed in around my arms, I realized that this is a place where shame is a burden we must carry. And I wanted to call my burden a cross, but it looked more like chains, and even angels are too large to keep. You see, it's hard to see God when wearing religion like blinders to keep me on the straight and narrow, and everyone's telling me something different to believe, and maybe unity only exists as an ideal, as something that should be. I was born in the Bible Belt, where crosses hang like pendants, signifying that you're part of a club, that you're from here. And I've seen Christian symbols collected like trinkets, strung together like rosaries to Hail Mary us into heaven, but we're not superstitious or Catholic. We're superiorly religious. I was born in the Bible Belt. I remember the first time I heard someone spout off a string of canned Christian quotes, and I asked, "So why are you a Christian?" I was born Christian. Trying to explain that Christianity is not the same thing as ethnicity was something like trying to explain chemistry to a child. It was exhausting and pointless. I was born in the Bible Belt, a term I'm now convinced that Satan himself thought up, to white mask a complacent, divided Christianity that he let loose on a country. And now it's so tangible that we've wrapped it like a belt around our arms, wondering why it's so hard to reach for heaven. You see, the devil, he understands humans' affinity for easy things and slavery, as long as we call it by a different name. I was born in the Bible Belt, where we made a desert from religion and we're burning, crying to go back to Egypt to be held in captivity by not understanding what we believe. And I don't think there's one of us who hasn't been caught in adultery. But I'm not sure anyone really believes we have a Savior, capable of looking at our shame and putting down His stone, because we've been stoning each other for years now. We are a beaten and broken people, with a chain that we call a belt that we pass out when we feel bad about not doing enough good deeds or not going to church last Sunday. I was born in the Bible Belt. And I remember, when I was a little girl, I knew that the cross was more than a piece of jewelry. It looked like love to me. And I knew I had a Savior, and that He didn't die by the hand of a spear, but by His own love for me. And that was a faith worth dying for, before I knew the problem would actually be in living. I remember my dad reading me stories of a God who I could believe in, but sitting here I've had to wonder if He's the same God that we claim to be serving, because I've been being led around by this belt around my neck, and everyone's telling me that if you're going to play this game, you got to pick a team. I remember the first time I watched someone die. I realized that these legs weren't meant to carry me, and that death isn't going to wait for me to find a reason for living. I was born in the Bible Belt, where I came to realize that religion may always be the mountain between me and God, and that I might spend my entire life climbing because I couldn't ever find the faith of a mustard seed. I was born in the Bible Belt. And even here, desperation has a way of finding me and bringing me to my knees. And only in humility could I learn that even with my arms fastened by my side, we don't need them to crawl to our Savior, and the only way to approach a cross is on our knees. The cross is a moment of clarity. And there the truth sets us free, and I think God understands. How often we get tangled up in where we think we're from, and that not so long ago we turned the law into chains, and that only love crucified was going to set us free, and maybe he's still crucified, trying to tell us we're not from here. A place where they talk about Bible days like God doesn't still speak, and if we'd open our eyes we would see that even in the desert every bush is burning. I was born in the Bible Belt, where we cling to commandments because we're too afraid to find healing at the hem of a garment, and perfect love casts out all fear. But we still cling to the law like a security blanket. Like we weren't bought at a price, and the Spirit no longer bears fruit because, like blood, this blanket isn't going to set us free, and there is only one reason why an empty cross is still standing, because God knows that it is the easiest place for us to breathe. And that love is a cause worth living. I thought I was born in the Bible Belt, but now I find it only to be an obstacle. I was born from a legacy. I was born from a grandfather who answered a calling crawling down an aisle on his hands and knees, and I used to think God was calling me, till I took a step back and looked at my family and saw myself only as a small part of a promise that God gave to those who served him faithfully. And I know that I found God because I have a mother and that she doesn't pray without crying. And from my dad I learned that God, he is in the slow and the steady. And I wondered if this belt closed in around him the way that it did me, but he's known that the bushes are burning, and that God is trying to speak, and that makes people in the desert worthy. And sometimes it's only in growing we realize that we don't always get long enough on this earth to see that serving God is always a part of a bigger picture, unfolding in the ability to obey. God knew me before I was born. He placed me in a legacy, and on the day I was born, my parents took me and they laid me at the foot of a cross because God promised them that one day I would find my way back there on my knees. Love is in the small spaces. It dwells behind the stage where no recognition will ever be given, but we have a higher calling. We have a reason to believe because in life we know that love, it changes things.